Time will tell, but there's no question but that the people who, God bless them, who have volunteered for that work and trained themselves for it are important to our country, and they're unconventional, and we're dealing in an unconventional time, and we may very well need more of them.
The President has called up 35,000 reserves. Do you expect further call-ups?
It's unclear. It depends on what happens next and the specialties we need to sustain the effort that we're currently engaged in. It is stressful on the force to stay on high alert, and we're on alert, DEFCON 4 across the globe, and we're on a state of force protection, Charlie, here in the United States, and a relatively quite high alert. And that means it takes more people, more effort. We've got aircraft that are available on a 15-minute scramble strip alert. But it is it's a mistake to think of this as something that's going to be dealt with in a short period. It is a big problem for the world.
Is there anything to prevent us from going in and taking out Osama bin Laden?
Well, I mean, my goodness, if that were doable, it isn't a matter of him, it's a matter of his network. If he were not there, there'd be 15 or 20 or 30 other people who would step in and take care of those pieces. Obviously, he's a prime suspect, but we have to be realistic. This is not a person that's the problem. It is a whole host of people and a whole host of countries that are harboring those people, and that has to stop.
Two very quick questions. First, do we need to reopen production lines for the B-2 and cruise missiles?
Obviously, we'll be addressing those, and it depends on what the demands may be, and those are decisions we'll be looking at in the period ahead, among others.
Even though there's been a spike in recruiting, any prospect of reinvigorating the draft?
We have no plans to do that at the moment. The numbers of people we're able to attract and retain have been within the margin that we need, and I don't see that happening at the moment. I wouldn't rule out anything, however.
All right. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tony.
Now we're going to turn our focus to the investigation of Tuesday's attack. Fox News senior correspondent Rita Cosby joins us with the latest. Rita?
Tony, overnight authorities arrested a second man as a material witness in this case. The unidentified man was taken into custody in an apartment in Jersey City, New Jersey. And law enforcement sources tell Fox News he has information about the planning behind the two hijacked planes that struck the Twin Towers. This comes as a new finding is made near the scene. An intensive search is underway for evidence blocks away from where New York's World Trade Center once stood. Now that a passport of a suspected hijacker has been discovered near the ruins. The investigation is moving quickly with a second material witness arrested, and the Justice Department promising a flurry of warrants to come soon. The first man arrested is the same one who was taken into custody Thursday night at JFK Airport after he presented a fake pilot's license to authorities. Law enforcement sources say he has ties to relatives of Osama bin Laden. Sources also say these two men who took an Amtrak train from St. Louis to Texas on Tuesday are cooperating with authorities and providing valuable clues. Sources say when they were arrested on immigration violations, agents found $5,000 cash, box cutter knives similar to the ones used in Tuesday's attacks, and hair dye, which was also found in cars rented by the hijackers. And some new details showed there was a major intelligence breakdown prior to the terrorist attacks. Fox News has learned that U.S. intelligence officials knew that two of the hijackers on the plane that crashed into the Pentagon had been in the U.S. for some time. Sources say Khalid al-Midhar and Nawak al-Hamzi were on the FBI's terrorism watch list, and that the CIA told the FBI in late August that both men were in the country and to be concerned. FBI sources say the two men could not be found at that time. Law enforcement sources say the evidence keeps mounting against Osama bin Laden as being the mastermind behind the attacks. He continues to deny any involvement. In a statement released today to a Pakistan-based news agency, bin Laden said, quote, The U.S. is pointing the finger at me, but I categorically state I have not done this. He further said those who have done it, they have done it in their personal interest. Law enforcement officials put no stock and no credibility in his words. Tony?
Thanks, Rita. We're now joined from Camp David by the man running the investigation, Attorney General John Ashcroft. Also here, Brit Hume, Washington managing editor of Fox News. Attorney General Ashcroft, Rita Cosby has just referred to the fact that the FBI had on its watch list 2 men who went in, used their own names, actually enrolled in an airline frequent flyer program, bought tickets under their own names, boarded planes. How on earth did that happen?
Well, obviously it's something we wouldn't want to have happen. We don't want those people in the country. This is a big country. We've got substantial freedom to travel. These individuals were able to do that. And obviously there are things that we'd like to be able to stop that we haven't been able to stop.
Does the FBI, sir, does the FBI not have access to that sort of thing, or is this, what sort of changes do you think are in order so that we can avoid this sort of a calamity?
Well, obviously we'd like to stop individuals who are on any watch list before they come into the country. I'm not prepared to say and don't have an ability to say whether or not these individuals came into at what juncture they came into the country. But we need additional tools in order to stop the kind of tragedy that happened. As a matter of fact, we'll be going to the Hill sometime in the next few days with a variety of upgrades and strengthening provisions in our statutes to help us do some things to curtail the assault of terrorism to which we are fighting. This is a very serious problem, terrorism, and these networks are worldwide. There are thousands of individuals in them. They operate with complexity. They have done very substantial acts which involve very significant technology, and yet we have to upgrade our system to be able to deal with terrorists.
Mr. Attorney General, it's Brit Hume. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you be more specific about what kinds of new authorities and upgrades, as you called them, you'll be seeking from the Congress?
Well, for example, there are some things in our law which are favorable in terms of enforcement against, say, drug dealers and organized crime, which we don't have as tools against terrorists.
What sorts of things?
We need to provide an upgrade in what we can do in terms of money laundering that's associated with terrorism. An individual who conceals or harbors drug dealers is subject to elevated penalties and to special enforcement procedures. We need that for people who would conceal or harbor terrorists. In terms of wiretapping, there are some things that it's easier to get a wiretap against a drug dealer or someone who's involved in illegal gambling than it is against terrorists. Then there are some things we need to strengthen the law generally. For example, in our ability to provide intelligence through wiretaps, we get court orders, but those court orders are assigned to specific telephones, not to individuals. Well, technology has raced us past the point where a specific telephone is that valuable because people change telephones. You and I know that you can go into convenience stores or into large merchandising outlets and buy telephones that are disposable. So we need to be able to develop our capacity to surveil individuals rather than the hardware people use. These are some of the kinds of examples that we could and will be talking with the Congress to act promptly upon so that we strengthen our ability to take action against this kind of terrorist network, which has not only assaulted the United States but has literally assaulted the world. There are nations from Argentina to Zimbabwe that lost lives in these assaults on the United States this last week.
Sure.
And this is a challenge which we need the help of all nations, but we also are going to strengthen our own capacity to act and act aggressively.
Sir, let me ask you about something quite specific, and that is we now know that Barbara Olson, who was the first known victim of this attack, at least known to the country, telephoned her husband, who works with you in the Justice Department, Ted Olson, Solicitor General of the United States. After that flight was in the air and told him that the plane had been hijacked. And he told us here on Fox News that he picked up the phone and called the relevant officials at the Department of Justice to respond. And it appears that we knew that plane was in the air. We knew it had been hijacked. Presumably, to some extent, we knew where it was. And yet it appears nothing very much happened. Now, we've heard the Defense Secretary saying, you know, we're not equipped to shoot down planes. But what did we know, and what was attempted there with regard to that plane, sir?
Well, I'm not prepared to, at this time, to try and discuss all of the ramifications. Obviously, Ted was in his office in the Justice Department when his wife called him, and I don't know what the specific time sequence and intervals are. My heart goes out to Ted. I spent some time with Ted a day or so ago and called him on the day of the incident. Barbara was a wonderful leader in America. She was obviously a very active person in the political process, but I'm not prepared to make conclusions. Don't think we have enough evidence to make conclusions about those sequences at this time.
Mr. Attorney General, one of your first actions in office was to go after racial profiling. Do you think in the wake of what's happened, if somebody at an airport detains somebody carrying a Saudi or a UAE or other kind of passport to ask a couple of questions, that that's an unconscionable violation of civil rights and something worth investigation by the Department of Justice?
Well, the Department of Justice has made it clear that we don't think this is a time. We do not think this is a time for Arab Americans and other Americans to be persecuted or otherwise the victims of activity that's inappropriate. And as a matter of fact, we've taken steps to make sure that Arab Americans have their rights regarded.
But sir, I did not. I specifically did not mention Arab Americans.
Yeah, that's this particular network. If you'll notice, there has been operating in a way that has been focused on individuals who are associated with and been involved with those kinds of in the Middle East type terrorist organizations, and so we have to understand that in what we do.
Mr. Attorney General, though, the question that Tony raised, I think, is bound to be asked over and over again, and probably needs to be confronted one way or another. I mean, if you look at the names of all of those, all 19 of those people who were suspects in this case, they appear to come from a particular part of the world, basically. They appear to fit a certain profile, if you will. That is profiling has become a dirty word in America in recent times. But is it not, in all reality, sir, a necessary tool to help defend this nation as we seek to identify people who might pose a danger? And is it not the case that necessarily innocent people may have to be detained because of certain characteristics about them, not detained in any permanent sense, but given a special measure of scrutiny just in the interest of public safety?
Well, we are scrutinizing all individuals who are boarding aircraft. Our airport security has been upgraded. We are securing the airports as well as the entry gates for particular flights. And when there are factors that elevate that any suspicion that there's a problem, we take action. That's why you've found a number of new security measures imposed. But we are not at the place of saying that people are suspects based solely on their race or ethnic origin.
Mr. Attorney General, a lot of Americans right now are anxious. They fear that terrorists could strike any day. We hear of children fearing going to school and so on. Are these people overreacting?
Well, I think people should operate with a heightened awareness. This is an enormous worldwide terrorist effort. It's a network. They operate around the world. Much of the world has encountered the kind of problems we've encountered recently in previous settings. This activity has come to the United States. We should operate with a heightened awareness, but we should continue to operate as Americans. We've taken extra measures, and we are going to take substantial additional measures. We have We're pursuing over 40,000 leads. We have 4,000 FBI agents working this matter aggressively. We've enlisted, with a number of bulletins and other communications, the aid of all law enforcement around the country. We have indicated